started out as a pretty awesome alternate reality game. It had all kinds of cool shit in it, steganography, cryptography. It was incredibly difficult, and a lot of really smart people kind of gathered around it to try and solve it. And that was, late 2011, 2012. What happened was that a group of people who saw a bunch of really smart people decided to what's called game jacking, which means infiltrate.
It's like that movement jacking that we were just
Precisely, exactly. It's movement jacking, but in this case, it's game jacking because Cicada is an alternate reality game. But what they did was they infiltrated it, took it over for themselves, started LARPing as the original Cicada team, and started inserting radicalization and indoctrination materials into it. Ultimately, Cicada became the bridge to QAnon.
Right, and I think one way to frame it might be that the original creators of Cicada, appear to have done so with, some ethical compass, and then that ethical compass became eroded as time went on and different people started to take over how it was operating.
Precisely.
Okay. So, and also it's probably worth noting here that it was towards the end of Cicada's, sort of prominence in the 2016-2017 timeframe that some of these other LARPs, this FBI anon, CIA anon, Meganon, started to become in sort of beta testing as the idea for Q sort of percolated and eventually kind of broke through.
Dave, can I just comment real fast?
Absolutely, yeah.
So two things. In addition to movement jacking, destructive cults create front groups with topical themes in order to bring people in. So I just wanted to add that. And Jim shared with me a 5-minute episode of a video game called Assassin's Creed that had inserted into it Cicada 3301. And I've been trained in hypnosis since 1980, and it was very hypnotically programming people to the beliefs.
Who is this?
Right, and it contains hypnotic music and words.
Exactly.
And, there's just classic techniques for how to actually do that stuff that's clinically proven and scientifically valid.
To me, it included the concept of internet radicalization, which is an odd thing for it to include in Assassin's Creed.
Absolutely. So we know some of the people that were behind that, and it was we think fairly intentional. So another project that we came across in research for this, and which was known to people involved in this project over the last few years.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there, and then to top off tonight, I want to. They talk about gang stalking and the fallout of some of this and what happens to people. And this is the part that I kind of would like to focus on. I don't know what to do exactly for us to heal, because it's kind of a self-discovery myself in this. But I really think that, I don't know. Honestly, but right now, I have started to see a counselor. I've sought therapy recently. Really? I'm just being honest, because I have gone through so much cyberbullying for so long, and then this recent activity that has taken place. You get PTSD from it. Things do happen to you if you've had stuff like this going on. I didn't play the puzzle, all right, but I obviously something has happened where I've been associated to certain movements, or I have talked about certain things on my channels or the different radio shows I was on, and the things that were happening. And I've always been kind of I believed some of it at one point, especially when I was doing things with Stephen D. Kelly and Truth Cat Radio, and some of my personal relationship to him, and I was caught up in some of it, but at the same time I was still kind of going, something's not right here, and I had vocalized it even to Stephen back in 2017. I said, I don't think there's a queue. I said, you know, and to him it didn't matter. He goes, it doesn't matter. We're controlling the narrative. You know, I had covered a protest that happened down in Hollywood. I live streamed it. It was against Hollywood pedophilia, and there were people that I was associated with, that I had been an Occupy with, that was connected to Roger Stone, that was connected to the marijuana activism that I was involved in. That were, if you know me, my background in the Hollywood Lizard Party, they were at the Lizard Party. You know, there were like all these things that now I'm looking back and realizing, even when I was doing that march, right in the middle of it, the guy who was running it, his name was Kai Conspiracy. He went by Kai Conspiracy or Kai Conspiracy, Operation Mayhem, Twitter. You know, it just, he ended up, you know, right in the middle of it, right when I was live streaming, he goes, "Where we go one, we go all," and I turned to the, you know, my you know, cell phone that I was streaming off of it, and I said, he just did a 17th letter of the alphabet phrase, and you know, I didn't even know that at that time when I was live streaming it, that that's what it was associated with. So, you know, yeah, I've gone through, like, for myself, a lot of this, and part of, like, that's the reason why my channel is called Not My Rabbit Hole. Not My Rabbit Hole. Like, I have people go, oh, she's, you know, she thinks she's going down the rabbit hole. No, what I'm saying is, like, you know, on my blog, it's beyond the red pill. You know, it's like, I'm anti what this is. Like, I've been trying to figure out, like, what's been going on, what happened to us, what is this that happened, and so I feel like recently I've gotten closer to what the truth is, and I'm wanting to share it with you, but I'm also wanting to find a way that how do we get well from this. So anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. Let me go back to this one. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit about gang stalking, and I thought this was super informative. Oh, here, let's go into the I Am cult a little bit though too. What's under the hood? Yeah, I'm going to take you here for a moment as well. Hold on. We'll get to the gang stalking part in a second.
What we found were a variety of different networks of people, among them some cults. So the first is this group called I Am Theosophy, which is a theosophic religious cult that was started in the 1930s as kind of an offshoot of previous kinds of Gnostic religious traditions, you know, coming from people like Blavatsky and Crowley, as well as listing Rosicrucianism as a kind of a forerunner and a compatible set of beliefs to this. But it's this kind of idea that you can become an ascended master, and that, you know, there's this occult knowledge that you can obtain, and that the sort of patron mascot of I Am is Saint Germain, this character on the left here with the yellow hair and the purple background. Let's just say that some of the beliefs...
And this is who, like, TS says that he is. So, he might as well call himself Rambo. It makes me think of, like, you know, SDK, right? Like, oh, I've got this Rambo in the seventh dimension above Jesus Christ, and, you know, I can kick your ass in the astral plane. Okay.
Beliefs of this particular network are pretty interesting. Jim, I don't know if you have more you want to say about the whole Saint Germain thing, but yeah, you know, they worship on Mount Shasta. They allegedly, that was where the founder of I Am allegedly first came across Saint Germain, was on Mount Shasta in California, and it's an interesting belief system. Jim, do you have anything else to add there?
Well,
or Steve?
I mean, I would just add personally that theosophy was something that was incorporated by the Nazis. It's not all theosophists are Nazis. I don't mean to imply that, but
no, many I think are just seekers, and you know, there's nothing wrong with being a seeker.
Yeah, and nobody is trying to, you know, portray people's legitimate beliefs as anything but genuine. But these particular groups make it so that your beliefs aren't genuine. And in this particular case, this philosophy has been used to do very, very bad things, including Nazi Germany.
Just as an example here, this is a little video clip of some folks that are associated with this set of beliefs. And it just gives you a little bit of an idea to kind of where their head's at.
Okay, so I'm going to skip to here, and then I'm going to put this link if you guys, if anybody wants to watch this any further, but I want to get to the gang stalking part. The whole video's, I mean, really good, but this really stood out to me, and I you know, a lot of people want to say that gang stalking isn't real. You know, that it's, you know, something like it's part of somebody's imagination. It's not really happening to you. You're not being targeted like this. But that's not true, and it's quite debilitating, and there's things that they say in this that I completely agree with. I think it's criminal. It's one of the most cruel things you can do to somebody, and I really hope that we will have laws in place. The psychological torture and the anyway, let me just this part's going to go, and then it's going to go right into it. So I'm going to cut to that part right here.
Exactly.
Yep. So I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about gang stalking and specifically some of the techniques that people involved in this set of networks have been using to intimidate people, to kind of push them psychologically over the edge, and to ultimately try to control them. And I can't think of two better people to kind of talk about that right now than Jim and Steve. Jim, do you want to maybe get into kind of like some of what you've seen with this topic of gang stalking, and I think start with the definition of what gang stalking is?
Sure. Gang stalking is actually one tactic of psyops on individual people, right? They use basically psychological torture to traumatize people, to dissociate them, to terrify them, to insert phobias into them so that they will comply with the cult leaders' demands. And this particular topic gets me a little emotional because I have talked to many people who have had this done to them.
Mm-hmm. It's and specifically in the context of this set of networks and QAnon.
That's correct, and it's horrifying. I've seen these people attack minds. They attack people's minds. They tear them apart. They dissociate them. They specifically experiment on them to get to the very core of who they are, and then insert information and goals and ideas that were not there to begin with.
Right.
I have seen this in many people, and it is one of the worst crimes that I can imagine because it leaves people with permanent, devastating damage.
And these are people that have, needed to seek, psychological counseling, exit counseling from cults, talking to practitioners like Steve, who have helped them to see what happened to them. And it's super traumatic. I know, Desiree, you had, a lot of people within the, DAPL community that were very traumatized by what happened there, mostly because they didn't really understand what exactly took place. And, actually getting a grasp of what happened is somewhat helpful.
Yeah, I think folks didn't know who we were looking at and what actually was happening because there is a need for development of lexicon within different communities around how these things play out. So from the outside it looked, and personal experience was that it was probably mercenaries who cast a wide net and then tried to influence our lives even after the Standing Rock movement space.
Right, and I know many of you felt traumatized for months, if not years afterwards.
Yeah, but it's important to know, we have this list of, at the very beginning, of movements that were targeted. And it's important to know that within those movements, we understand how social networks operate these days and how people can look at them and analyze them and kind of play puppeteer with them, unfortunately.
Right.
So it's important to know that those are the movements that were targeted and gang stalking is one tactic. So I look forward to there being a lexicon within movements for justice that is substantial and lasting, because so much of this happened already and has been going on for decades. We need to figure out how to have retention, because this is a tactic that multiple entities use.
Right, and people just don't have great vocabulary.
Yeah, you know what, Tams, I'm gonna, before, so I don't forget, I'm gonna go ahead and, because you're asking
Carrie
me to
Joyce
post
still.
the link. I'm gonna go ahead and post the link here. Yeah, my cat's really acting out tonight. He's had a lot, he's gone through a lot because I've moved, and he's discovered a new room, and he's like, I want to go there all the time, and he should. I made a mistake. He was real quiet, and right before the show, I got up and get some bottled water out there, and he saw me go out there, and so ever since I went out there before I did the broadcast, he's like, he's got to be out there. We're gonna go out there. Would you be good for a little while? Hey, Orlando, will you be good for a little while? Be good for a little while, and to like half an hour, and I promise I'll be a good kitty mom. Oh boy, okay. Oh, so
Vocabulary about this. Steve, I wondered if you could maybe talk a little bit too about this idea of kind of overwhelming people and then, unfreezing them and then refreezing them in terms of, injecting the payload, that sort of thing.
Sure. So essentially, Edward Bernays, who wrote the 1920 book Propaganda, was really the first person to connect psychology with politics and business.
He was Freud's nephew, if I recall.
Exactly, and it's evolved. Goebbels tried to hire him for the Nazi work, but he based all of the Nazi work off of Bernays' work. But my point is things have gotten more and more sophisticated as we understand social psychology, as we've been studying neuroscience, etc. But the concepts are pretty clear patterns. Like when you're in a mind control cult, there's never a legitimate reason to leave within the cult. So people are given phobias that if they leave, they're going to go crazy. Or if they leave, they're going to commit suicide. Or if they leave, they're going to be hit by a car. And in some of these more nefarious cults, they will arrange those things to happen that drive people into a hospital, etc. But the idea is also to spread fear to anyone else involved with the cult. Look what happened to them. They got stalked. They're in a mental hospital. They got sued. And listen, I started speaking out in 1976, and I was designated a suppressive person by Scientology in 1976 when
It's a badge of honor.
With Paulette Cooper, who they broke into her apartment and typed a bomb threat to themselves on a typewriter, the old kind, and almost got her put in jail. I mean, so the tactics of cults to harass critics and former members goes back 44 years for me. It's just now on steroids in the digital age. And unless people have this framework, this education to discern the difference between ethical influence and unethical, and I know you have a slide coming up later, Dave, on this.
Right.
Unless they understand the control techniques and how to protect themselves, people can be manipulated. And you were asking about the unfreezing, changing, refreezing. I first learned about that in 76 by reading a 1961 book by Edgar Schein called Coercive Persuasion. And it outlined breaking down somebody, disorienting them, confusing them, overloading them in order to ready them for indoctrination. That's the changing part. And then the refreezing of the new belief system, the new ideology self. And in my case, I went from Steve Hassan, who was an English writing major, who had a ponytail, to a right-wing fascist who thought Moon and his wife were my parents, throwing out my poetry, fasting for Nixon because God wanted Nixon to be president. I became a right-wing fascist and turned my back on my Judaism.
Right, and I think in the end, that shows that this kind of process doesn't really have anything to do with ideology. You didn't believe that stuff kind of at your core, you were sort of programmed into it by replacing
Exactly.
your normal milieu of friends with different people that all of whom were exerting a kind of social influence on you.
Exactly, and a critical concept is informed consent or lack of informed consent. And I
Right.
think any legitimate group should tell you upfront who they are, what they believe, and what's going to happen before they start pressuring you to join. But destructive authoritarian cults of all types withhold vital information, distort information, or outright lie about
Right.
who they are and what their agenda is.
And I think that what's unethical about this QAnon situation is that we have this happening at a massive scale involving dozens of
Right.
countries, around 80 countries, and hundreds of millions of people. We don't know exactly how many millions, but it's probably greater than 50 that are being influenced by this, and they don't know who they are being influenced by because no one knows who the QAnon organizers are per se. So I mean that's patently unethical.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, like some of my sources have had what Stephen described happen to him, basically online, through email, through DMs, through Discord servers. They're able to do that exact same technique to break people, literally break them down, dissociate them, insert their own ideas, and then rescue them from that situation. It's psychological torture in order to provide undue influence on people.
Yep.
And Dave,
So
you did
one issue that is going to be really important is putting laws in place that make it illegal to do this. I'm here to say this is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
See, that's what I hope someday, that they put laws into so that they make it illegal.
Done to human beings, and it needs to stop. It needs to be illegal.
And I wanted to call out Dave, your TED Mid-Atlantic talk with Professor Carroll and Brent Altress, highlighting the Great Hack and People You May Know, and there's one other one that's very popular, Social Dilemma. These three documentaries can educate everybody just how much information has now been gathered on all of us to know which buttons controllers want to use. And this data can be purchased on the dark web for anyone who wants to know how to do it. And in the United States, we have no privacy protections, established by law for this information, and it's being used against us to tear America apart and create conflict and chaos instead of supporting democracy.
And to be really blunt, we don't have any laws that prevent retired military intel professionals from running psyops on the American people. We don't have any laws that stop that from happening.
So if I can just say one more thing, I'm finishing a doctoral program, Dave, where I explicitly have been researching the legal system and undue influence and what laws can be used. And in fact, Keith Raniere of NXIVM is sitting in jail waiting to be sentenced on 7 felony counts, including trafficking.
It's a bad dog.
The word cult was never used, and I don't think the word brainwashing or mind control was used. But there are federal statutes against trafficking that I believe can be used against anyone who's using unethical mind control.
So clearly there's a need to advance that conversation, to look at that from a global perspective, try to learn best practices from other countries that maybe already are exploring this issue in more detail than we are, and then we also need to consider what needs to be done at the federal, state, and local level to really have people understand that this issue of undue influence is a severe problem in our society, particularly within the context of the digital realm.
Yep.
So I wanted to turn the rest of our time.
You know better than that.
Until about 2:30.
You're supposed to go poo-poo outside, not in the house. No,
And to
I'm
kind
not
of look back
happy
from
with
where we
you.
started with, a lot of the media.
Okay, so I
Don't
wanted
poop
to
in my
just
house.
share, that part with you about the gang stalking and how they addressed it, and I think we're getting more of a beat on the government does it every day. Yeah, I mean, hi Bottega Verratti. Good to see you here. Australia in the house. So, it's going on, and you know, there are people now that
It's
we
somebody
can
else's
say
stream. I'm streaming it in the background.
there are certain individuals that are associated to all of this that a lot of people are talking about being involved in it. So it's not just like me, it's not just, you know, let's say it's not just Tams, it's not just, you know, Pavana and Jesse Davis. It's also, you know, you can listen to Wes Clark talking about it. You can talk about, you can see that, like, this footage here that I just showed you, the stuff from the Financial Times, how Cicada 3301 came about. There's articles that you can read that are mainstream that are verifying that something is going on. And you know, I think that we need to come out and start talking about it, and we need to, like, not be intimidated about it. And I think that people need to be educated about what has happened to them. And also, you know, and let's think about, like, maybe we can put our heads together. How do we get well from this? Have been traumatized by it. You know, have been institutionalized because
Shut up, Zoe.
And there's some people that maybe committed suicide because of it. And that's how wicked this is.
Exhaust on my car.
I don't know, but like there was something else. I don't know what this. I was a little distracted here, so
I kid you not.
my cat is really acting out tonight. He's normally not this bad.
And she goes, Mom wants to know if she can come over
so
here.
I gotta go. I've been live streaming for like almost 2 hours now, so I am gonna have to
and I
go
said,
here
I'm not
pretty
home.
soon. Tam says she already knows. I already know the answer. Okay, you're talking about somebody else. Yeah, I mean.
And I said, well, what is it?
There
I said,
names in the chat tonight that
she goes,
I've never recognized in my chat before. So I mean, I'm sure.
So then
the
she
perpetrators,
gives
maybe
Marvita
there's
phone.
one or two in the
Marvita's
chat, you know,
trying to
there's
explain
probably some
Can't
that
explain it,
are
and then she goes,
watching.
well, read the corner of it, Billy.
I was kind of surprised.
Billy
I mean,
gets on the phone,
there's
she's reading
24
the
people
corner
tuned in right now, and it's
a fucking
you know, on
envelope.
the West Coast,
Oh
it's
yeah, it's from
11:19.
somewhere
So
on Napanee Street. In
I'm sure, like, if
Colorado.
it's in other
I'm like,
areas,
so
the
you're
times
talking
are
about a
different.
piece of
But
mail?
you know, if you're in the United
So
States,
it's
you know,
probably
if you're
from
in
the doctor
Texas,
from
then
the Elkhart
it's,
Clinic.
you know,
I said, it's
1:30
nothing
now. Or if you're on the
drastic
East Coast, or what?
important.
And is it 1:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 2:30
Yeah,
on the
I
East
was
Coast. So
like,
it's getting
oh,
late if
fucker.
you're watching in the
They
United
literally
States.
must
But
sit and listen for my car to
those of
fire
us that
up.
are probably tuned in right now, we know what's going on. Either it's happened to us, or however. And I haven't live streamed in a while, so I'm surprised that there's even this many people listening right now. But I think that's because of what I'm talking about. It's what the topic is. And so I wanted to share that with you again, and I will make sure that I have it in after, probably tomorrow. I'm gonna, like, put all the links in that I've shown, and then also the link to my Rumble as well, because that's where I'm gonna talk more freely about the cryptocurrency and stuff like that. That's also associated, because I feel under the spotlight on YouTube, and I don't want to get things messed up. I like to keep this channel here. But you could. I'm also on Twitter at Terry Joyce, and that's TERE Joyce. So I'll be live streaming there too as well.
Like you skip all the brain
check
mumbo
Not My
jumbo.
Rabbit Hole with Terry Joyce on Facebook. Like me there, because I have some footage going up there. You can also like be my friend on Facebook if you want. Because I'm going to be depositing things there. And then I've got a podcast too on Spotify, Not My Rabbit Hole, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Different material is in different places. And again, I find YouTube to be really restrictive. Like I would say right now, yeah, YouTube has the best software and the interaction, I think. Well, but I think Twitch probably does the same thing, and so does Rumble. But in terms of, like, the strictness and how YouTube behaves, you know, it's not my favorite. Like, sometimes I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. I think maybe you can relate. It's nice to see you here, Tams. And Bottega Variety.
What I find funny is, these people
Vanessa Bates came in a little bit earlier. I don't know if she's still here. She said hi.
And
there
then
she
they
is
get attacked
at
for a brief
9:34.
moment, and they become the
And Jeff Reed. He comes in a lot. Good
because they
evening,
went back
Terry.
and read,
Not a whole lot of comments, though.
Other
I mean, some
people's shit.
comments, but
and then they're experts.
I mean,
That just,
Tams
that
and stuff.
just
But
shocks me. All
I don't
these
know.
YouTubers and-
about your question, Tams, about Donald's rabbi, if that's actually him himself, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't in the chat, because that's kind of, they're always LARPing, they're always hiding their identity from you. Okay, I'm going to close again. I started with Isaac Cappy and the song. I think Isaac Cappy is a tragedy. And
Yes, he is.
and let's hope that we don't have any more tragedies from some of this stuff. No more suicides, no more. Prevent that. Thank you for listening tonight, and I hope you found the material valuable for you. And if you do, give the video a like, share it, make comments. Later on, let's open up, keep the dialogue open, asking questions. I guess maybe I should go like this. I like this song. I'm kind of into it. I guess this is because Isaac was a musician, and it just popped up on my feed, and so I'm gonna open the show with it.
I'm streaming. But you said you don't care.
Well, I don't. I'm going to say what I say regardless.
I am the guy that was falling, love is the summertime. Oh yeah, and I'm in the fire. You're fire, and I'm so
When you
you're
couldn't
fire.
talking and you
In the lifetime, in the lifetime.
hell.
We were born on the garden of I was growing, little first chick. I was in the garden just having a laugh, till I met a monster across my path. Hey, God, do you want some martial law? I could get you lit up one of two ways. What's it gonna be, man? What's it gonna be, man? Saying I feel like the whole world was begging me to bring fire the love upon my enemies. Till the love washed over me, till I let the love wash over me. Saying I forgot the whole world begging me to bring fire the love upon my enemies. Till the love washed over me, till I let the love wash over me every day.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Moses, shut the hell up.
He's barking at Justin again.
Justin just pulled in the driveway.
Oh, was that Alan? It just clomped up or down the stairs?
Supposedly gonna play a wild card game.
Bullshit.
That's what it said.
He can't. He's on injured reserve.
Buffalo Bills safety plans to attend wild card game playoff. So I don't know.
Maybe attends, but not play.
We'll see.
Because he was on injured reserve and he had to sit out 4 weeks or something, I believe. So.
Yeah, but that wild card game ain't for another couple weeks, right?
No, it's today.
Is it today?
Yeah, at 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's no way he can play.
Yeah.
He's on it. Unless they made a special rule for him.
I
But
doubt it.
he's probably just going to watch. There's no way.
Yeah.
I think he can play in the AFC Championship game if they make it, though.
I messed up. I
But-
messed up.
He can't play because they put him on injured reserve. I doubt they would fucking play him anyways because it'd be too risky.
Oh my God. A dark time for theaters. Skittles, Milk Duds, and Junior Mints are in short supply.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
Oh my God, what will you ever do?
Did you see the Jaguars?
I saw part of it.
They were down 27-0 in the first half and came back and won
I know.
with the last second field goal.
I was like,
That's crazy.
I can't believe they're getting their asses kicked
Yeah.
that bad. I told
Yeah.
Bear and Aaron, I'm like, I expected it to be a much closer game, and it
Yeah,
was
me too.
20-something to nothing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really see the score, although I could see the game from the DJ booth. And next time I went down, it was like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I was like, I come out here because we were playing board games. I come out here. They're kicking the last second field goal. I'm like, what the just happened?
Dude, there was like,
Yeah, he threw 4 interceptions in the first half.
all them fucking interceptions. That's the only reason they were getting smoked. But I'm still surprised they came back and won.
He's the first quarterback ever to throw 3 in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And the other dude had 3 interceptions in the first half on defense for the Chargers.
I don't know if playing yet, are they?
At 1 o'clock, Buffalo, Miami.
So one Mega Millions winner in fucking Maine.
No name, I'm guessing?
Oh, that's the $1 billion one?
Yeah.
Honey,
Yes?
mute.
Mute.
Yeah.